Hello, welcome to another edition of OLM Live Discussion. I'm your host, Angela Green, Executive Director of On Location Memphis. So, we have a pretty interesting discussion for you tonight. You all know that to produce a film project, there are a lot of moving parts, a lot of people who come into play when you're doing that. And for the larger project, many times you're working with the local film commission who is helping you to interface with the local city officials, county officials, maybe even state officials. You're looking to get use of government buildings, possibly government agency services, and things of that nature. Well, in order to do that, oftentimes they are going to require that you have insurance. And so tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to discuss the insurance needs of film productions. We have LaSandra Young with the LaSandra M agency here, and she's going to go over those different types of policies with us today. So, welcome to the virtual stage. Hi, LaSandra. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you, Angela?
I'm doing fine. So, why don't you go ahead and just tell our audience a little bit about you and your agency before we get into it?
Okay. As Angela said, my name is LaSandra M. Young, and I am the owner of LaSandra M. Young Agency. I am the principal agent, and I'm also an independent agency, which means that I'm able to write insurance coverages with several insurance companies. Some of the companies that I write for is Allstate, Safeco, Progressive, Travelers, Nationwide, Liberty Mutual, just to name a few. So what I do is I give customers an option to choose the best premiums and best coverages that meets their needs by doing the research for them with the various companies that I write for.
Excellent, excellent. So, I know when I first brought this up to you, had you even thought about putting yourself in a position where film productions could seek you out for insurance coverage?
I have not actually. I that was something that just kind of sparked my interest once you said it. And I'm glad that you introduced me to it.
Yeah, it's most times people don't think about it, especially when you have film productions that are doing what they call guerrilla filmmaking. They may not be crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's, but that's really as they grow and become larger and the budgets become larger and they start working with the film commission and many of the state officials, they really can't get around it. They're going
Hmm.
to have this insurance in
Hmm.
place. So we just want to talk about. I know there's four top policies in particular for Shelby County, Memphis, Shelby County, that film productions have to have. And so we're just kind of going to go through with it. So I know the first one is workers' compensation.
Hmm.
What exactly is workers' compensation and what does it cover?
Okay, so workers' compensation covers medical expenses, lost wages, and rehabilitation costs for cast and crew that are injured on the set. Workers' comp is typically handled by payroll companies. But like I said, if anyone on the set gets injured, anyone that's dealing with the production of the filming, um, this coverage will cover those costs. As I stated, medical costs, lost wages, and rehabilitation costs.
Does that has anything to do with loss of life on the set? I know that's something that recently happened in the last few months. There was a situation where a person was actually accidentally shot and killed on the set. Does
Yes,
workers' compensation handle that as well?
it does. It definitely does.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Hmm.
And what are those premiums usually run for workman's comp, or how do they calculate those premiums?
Well, they calculate about by the industry, the type of industry, and also the number of employees and their salaries.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. All right, so let's go to the next one. Automobile liability. What exactly is that?
Automobile liability only covers the other person. It does not cover the person who is the owner of the automobile. So, like I said, the liability. So, if someone is injured, let's just say um, one of the someone is picking food up for a cast member in the production company automobile, they will not cover it with it just having liability. It only covers the person, the other insured, not
Yeah,
person, right? Not the
not the
person,
owner.
not the owner. Exactly.
Okay. And so would that also extend to automobiles that are being used on the set as
That
well?
as well, yes. The automobiles that are on the set, they are covered as well. Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Mhm.
So essentially, if someone else gets hurt while in the automobile or using the automobile, it'll cover them, even though it may not necessarily cover the owner of the automobile.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So there, it sounds like they're just requiring the bare minimum to
The bare minimum.
make sure everyone is covered who the production company is hiring to help out with the project.
Right. And but my suggestion would be to just go ahead and get the full coverage so that way, because the owner of the vehicle or the owner, it won't come back on them because
Hmm.
they're liable for a lawsuit. So
Oh, yeah.
with them getting the full coverage liability, that will cover them as well as the driver.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I would
You
not,
wouldn't start with just
I would
automobile
no,
liability.
I would not.
Okay. Okay. And what is the pricing on those? How do they calculate with that policy? And can they be short term, or are they always just 12 months?
You can get a 6-month policy. It just depends on the company.
Okay.
Yeah, so some companies have 6-month policies, some have 12. So like I said, it just depends on the company. And as far as the premium, it depends on the type of automobile, the year of the automobile, and whether the gender, female, male, does have a factor in the premium.
Does a lot of times they use vintage automobiles on set. Does that make a difference if it's an
It
older model as
it
opposed
does
to one
because
newer?
that will have to have that particular automobile would have to have a classic car insurance
Okay.
coverage.
Oh,
Yes.
wow. Okay.
Hmm.
And is that more?
And those are typically, I'm sorry, but those are the premium on classic cars are typically lower.
Really?
And
Okay.
yes, hmm,
Okay.
so that would be important to know if that vehicle is considered a classic car or not.
Okay.
And so if it's 20 years or older, it's considered
The
classic.
classic. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Gotcha. Okay. So the next one is commercial general liability. What exactly is that?
Commercial general liability covers bodily injury and property damage accrued by third parties on premises and locations during the course of filming. And with general liability, it only applies to the locations within the United States and Canada. So again, general liability covers any bodily image injuries or property damage accrued by the third parties on the premises or location.
So say they are using the local jailhouse or even the local courthouse, it's basically covering those locations so that if something happens there or if somebody's hurt there,
Yes,
then they're covered.
that's correct.
Um,
It does not have to necessarily have to be the crew or the persons on the productions doing the production. That could be anybody.
okay,
Hmm.
okay. During that time, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. And then the last one is property insurance.
Hmm. So property insurance is insurance only if you own that building. If the production company owns that building, then property coverage is required. But if you do not own the building, then the general liability covers the property that you'll be filming on. So property coverage is only if you own that building.
So now I know with the city, a lot of times they're asking the production company to insure their own equipment.
Hmm.
Does that fall under property insurance, or is that another type of policy?
That is considered equipment coverage, or you might see it listed as inland marine coverage. So
Okay.
that covers all of your equipment, um, whether it's rented or owned. This particular insurance will cover that, cover it from damage, from theft, or a loss. If it's lost,
Mhm.
accrued on the set, it
Right.
will cover it. And the typical deductible for equipment starts at about $2,500.
Ooh,
Yeah,
goodness. Okay.
because a lot of the equipment are, expensive.
Yeah.
You're talking about the cameras, you're talking about microphones, you're talking
Yeah.
about just the rafters if they have to, film
Hmm.
from rafters. Yeah. So it's going to cover any equipment that is required to for filming.
So if there are any subcontractors who have equipment, would this cover theirs, or would they need to get their own equipment? I mean, own insurance for their own equipment?
They would need to get insurance for their own equipment.
Okay, so contractors would need to have their own.
Yes, and the film production must get a copy of the subcontractor certificate of insurance.
Okay.
To show proof that
Absolutely.
they do have that coverage.
Gotcha. Now I know for the city of Memphis, they require certain language in those policies. I guess those commercial general liability and maybe even property insurance policies, where they're given a 3-day notice if for whatever reason there's a cancellation or a material change in the company's insurance, as well as they want themselves listed as additional insured. Is that anything difficult to get that language put into those riders if
No.
the company needs that? Okay.
No, it's not.
That's general practice.
You can do it at the time of the purchase of the policy, or like you say, you can add them later.
Okay. And just add them later. So
yes.
So if someone is working on a project here in Memphis, Shelby County, how can they get in contact with you?
I can be reached at 901-538-9800. My email address is lmyoungagency@gmail.com. And I can also be reached on my website, which is LaSandra M youngagency.org. Also, you can Google me. You can find me on Google. Just Google LaSandra M Young Agency, and my information is also there.
All right, excellent. So I appreciate you just coming, dropping in for a few minutes and just sharing this information with our people. One last question though, are you limited to just Tennessee?
No, I'm licensed in Mississippi and Arkansas.
Okay, so someone doing a project in Mississippi and Arkansas, they could also reach out to you and make sure that they have everything that they need.
Yes.
I want to thank you again for joining us for this quick OLM live discussion on insurance needs for production companies. Be sure to tune in to us again. We will be having another OLM live discussion probably in the next couple of weeks. Want to make sure that we're going over the type of business information that you all need for your production projects. So until next time, we will see you again.